Hello and welcome to our reviews of Ryan, and today on the channel I'm going to be talking about the brand new horror film called Umma. This film was directed by Iris K. Shim. This is actually her directorial debut. Real quick before we dive into this review, if you like Blu-ray hauls and movie reviews, you're in the right spot. Hit the subscribe button, give the video a like, and comment below, are you interested in seeing Umma? And if you did see Umma, what were your thoughts on it? And now without further ado, let's jump into this review. Amanda and her daughter live a quiet life on an American farm, but when the remains of her estranged mother arrive from Korea, Amanda becomes haunted by the fear of turning into her own mother. The film stars Dermot Mulroney, Sandra Oh, Odeya Rush, and Favell Stewart. Umma was a film where I saw the poster about maybe 2 weeks ago. I never watched the trailer going into this film, so I didn't know what it was about. I just knew that it was a horror film and Sandra Oh was in it. And I believe that they released this film now because of the whole turning red aspect with that being released last week. She's kind of on a popular binge right now, so people kind of know who she is. But really, I don't really think a lot of people know that this movie exists. It's only in about 800 theaters right now, so it is a smaller release compared to other releases right now. And I have to say, the opening scene for this, it really didn't really grab me in. It's not a very attention grabbing kind of scene. It didn't really get me very much involved into the story right away. And it has a little bit of a longer intro. And it's really weird because you have this scene where somebody gets electrocuted and then it jumps to 16 years later. I'm not sure the significance as to why they did that. But this film, it feels kind of strange how they kind of put this film together because they're marketing it as a horror film and it really feels more like a thriller kind of film. The film really centers on Amanda, played by Sandra Oh. She is living on a farm with her daughter Chris, and they are isolated and they are basically honey keepers. They basically sell this honey to this shopkeeper named Danny. He comes over and picks it up and he sells it at his shop. And she learns in the beginning of the film that she is viral. She doesn't know what that is because she doesn't have internet, she doesn't have phones, and she doesn't have electricity. And the reason she doesn't have electricity is because she tells her daughter that she gets sick from apparently having electricity. So they're really living in old kind of times. They're using candles to have any kind of light. And this girl, her daughter, doesn't have any friends at all. She has one girl in this. It is played by Odeya Rush. Her name is River. She is Danny's niece. She has a little bit of interaction with her, but she never really has had any friends. She's very close to her mother. She does everything with her mother. And she's very much isolated on this farm, and she can't even really do much in her life. She wants to go to college, and her mother doesn't want her to go to college. And then Amanda, she has her uncle come to the house, and he delivers this box, and he basically says that her mother passed away, and that in this box is her remains, and it has some other types of artifacts and random keepings that the mother held on to. And if she opens this box, it pretty much is going to release a curse. Now in the film, she's not close to her mother, and you do find out in the beginning of the film that she is having some kind of abuse, and she has that throughout the film. She's really kind of going back and forth of what happened in her childhood and kind of applying it to her child that she has. They don't really fully explain why she doesn't have a husband. I assume in the film that her husband probably left her for some unknown reasons, but they don't really dive much into that. So the biggest thing that I can really say about this film, I don't really have a lot of positives for this film, but I do have to say that I think that the acting is pretty well done in this. There were a few cool scenes that were sprinkled throughout the film, but they don't really make up for the actual horror that this film is marketed on. It's not really scary at all. There is a few little cheap little jump scares, but it really just doesn't have a really strong story to me. It's not really executed very well, and it's really weird with some of the editing in this. They have some really weird editing choices that they do in this. There's one particular scene where she opens the box for her mother, and then it cuts to a random kind of convenience store kind of scene that is so quick. It just doesn't make any sense that they edited to that scene. I really don't understand why they have Danny involved in this story. I don't understand why they just kind of made him disappear in the film. I thought that he was going to have more of a role in this film, but he doesn't, and it's kind of weird that he just disappears. And then he has his niece in this film, played by Odeya Rush. Her character name is River, and she tries to be friends with Chris in this. And they kind of have a little bit of an awkward relationship. You can really tell that Chris is trying to struggle to have her as a friend because she's just not used to having any kind of friends. And they kind of form a little bit of a relationship in this, but they really don't flesh out that relationship and don't really kind of sum up that full relationship throughout the film. I also felt throughout this film that it's just relies way too much on the jump scares. I really don't like how they have the cheesy kind of jump scares. There is one particular part that I really like where Sandra Oh is in an attic and they have these bees that they execute. I really like that they used that because they are beekeepers, and it was cool having them pile up on this window. It really made it for a really dark scene. I thought that was probably one of the best scenes in the film, but there really isn't any other kind of scenes that really intrigued me that much. It just seems like kind of a story that really just doesn't develop enough for me, and it just doesn't deliver enough scares, and it's just not really much of a scary story. I guess you could say that the most scary thing about this film is the fact that Sandra Oh's character, she was abused when she was younger, and she is afraid of electricity, and then she also doesn't like her mother, so it has a little bit of family drama in that aspect. But really, there really isn't really much else to really offer in this film. I also wasn't impressed with the fact that this is a horror movie and people expect deaths, and there is not one death in this film. So how can you have a horror film if you don't have any deaths? There's no blood in this film, there's no gore in this film. It's just a very kind of drama kind of filled kind of film, and it feels very psychological at points. And it's also kind of, it really feels kind of long, even though it's only about 75 minutes. It's a really short horror film. And it just doesn't really kind of execute enough for me to really get the story going. And I just was really disappointed in the story. I really thought it was a very weak film, and really a really weak film to put in theaters. I really don't think that this kind of film should have even been released in theaters. I just didn't really think it really did a whole lot. And I don't really think many people are probably going to see this film because I just don't think that they know enough about it or even really know that it exists. I'm gonna give a score of this film a 1.5 out of 5. I just did not like this film. I really think that it really lacks a lot of imagination to it and just didn't do enough for me. Thank you guys for watching this review, and I'll see you guys on my next one.